What a great conversation about caring for our elders and just bringing their best life and meeting them where they are from your good friend, Brenda. I thought she was fantastic.
Oh my goodness. So this was a treat for me. I've known Brenda for 40 years and she is just so passionate about taking care of the elders or those with memory care issues. And it is a joy for her to go to work every day. I imagine when she's 80, she'll still be doing this.
Yeah.
This
And that is
beautiful
sacred work. That is sacred
Is.
work. So
Absolutely.
I think, and I learned a lot about what this could look like for, either my family or myself someday. And the more you know, the more you can be empowered to make your choices for yourself or your parents. So
we could go together, the OGs.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
It's all about community, baby.
Yes.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We're happy you're joining us. Today, we're going to be speaking with Brenda Reitz, and she is the executive director of Amber Grove Place, which is in Chico, California, and is an assisted living and memory care community, which is the home to 60 residents and has a waiting list. Brenda is a black belt in Jean Shindo. She's a mom. She's a lifelong Chico resident and a longtime friend of my good friend, Debbie DiManno. So welcome, Brenda. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Marci. It's great to be here. Hi, girlfriend.
Oh boy, we're gonna have some fun. No pressure, Brenda, but we're in like 20 countries now, thousands of downloads. So yeah, there's a lot of people listening to us today. So just be careful what you say about your girlfriend while you're here.
I was going to say, I've got some good Debbie stories.
Yes, we're gonna have to those for another time. but meanwhile, I am super excited to have you here. And in fact, we had to give Brenda a little background on podcasts because she's like, I don't know about this podcast thing you're doing. So so she's kind of learning on the fly. But anyway, the reason, Brenda, that I wanted to have you on is because it's February. And so for us, the theme for the month of February is love and connection. And so much of what we focus on is our children, and we're moms, and we have mom groups, we have mom apps, we have mom everything. But when I think about your relationship with your mother specifically, and don't you start crying, it's really something to be seen and admired. And I never really got to have a relationship like that with my own mom. So you have inspired me as a mother and a daughter who has done some amazing things with her mom.
Thanks, Deb.
So that is primarily why I'm having you here today, because Brenda also has essentially devoted her life to the elderly population. I don't even know if that's the right term. Yeah, but Marci and I are kind of OGs now, and sometimes we feel like we're getting to that place where we might be forgotten and disconnected from the world. And what I have watched you do over these many years with your career is, in fact, do everything but that, right? So I want you to talk a little bit about your background, about how you came to Amber Grove, and how you came from being the executive, or excuse me, the director of activities director to
Right.
the executive director of the entire community. So give us a little background. I'm gonna try to interject some funny stories in here, but
Uh-oh,
go
I'm
go
in
ahead,
trouble.
Brenda. Go ahead,
Okay,
Brenda.
thank you, Debbie. And I appreciate you asking that question because you asked me before the podcast why I had a love for seniors and what drew me to it. And it gave me this memory of being a girl, and I grew up in Forest Ranch in the mountains. There wasn't a lot going on up in Forest Ranch in the mountains. So my father, Gene Rolls, would have the two local historians over in the evenings, and they were quite elderly, and they wouldn't come at the same time actually because they would fight. There was a woman, they were arguing about history. There
Yeah.
was a woman, Leona Taggart, and she was in her 90s. And there was a man, Claude Willis, and he was in his 80s. And they'd be talking about, the historic roads up through the mountains and the history of that little mountain community.
Mhm.
And Leona would say things like, "Oh, Claude, you weren't even born yet," because they would argue about who was the more knowledgeable elder.
Yes. Yes.
But I think that hearing their stories is what got me interested in seniors because they have lived life and they do have
Mhm.
the knowledge of the world and they do have the stories. And, I find myself in memory care where you think, well, can they tell you those stories? And a lot of times it's the short-term memory that begins to fail for people, but the long-term memories are still there. And
Yes.
so I get to hear those stories
Mhm.
about those people and the people that live here. We write a little mini biography about them. So we know their life and we know their work and we know what they like to talk about because that helps us care for them and makes their life better, right? So if you
Yeah.
know what someone with memory loss likes to talk about, you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
I just have to remind people here that Brenda, when I first met her, I was in my 20s, and she's also in her 20s. We're a couple years apart, but she was running or participating with the local historical society, and she would give tours on the weekend. I never knew that connection or why you ever
Stansbury
did
home.
that,
Yeah,
but
that was
yeah,
fun.
that all makes sense. But
I love
um,
that idea of the passing of our history via our elders. It's such an indigenous trait. It's such a beautiful way to stay connected and to pass the wisdom down. So it's lovely that you had that from a young age and you continue to enjoy that as you hear these stories of the people who live in your community. That's so
yeah,
I
important.
really do. It's a different kind of conversation than you're having with a young person or a child,
Hmm. Yeah.
which is, of course, delightful.
Yes.
But the people that have lived, 80 years, 90
Yeah.
yeah,
years, know things about the world that we just don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm constantly learning from them. So
yeah,
it's completely interesting.
it's
And then,
beautiful.
when someone has memory loss, like I was saying, if you know what they like to talk about, an interesting example, there's a lady that lived here, and when she's kind of big, strong, healthy lady, like not all our residents are frail, they're just
Hmm.
forgetful, right? And
Hmm.
Yeah.
she was kind of kicking the door. She didn't want to be here. And so I found out where she was from, and she was from Chicago. And her father worked in this Palmer House hotel. It was very glamorous, and he took care of the
Mm.
celebrities. And so when she's having a bad day, I could, I don't want to, I guess I could say her first name, but anyway, I would say, "Aren't you from Chicago?" And she'd kind of stop kicking the door and smile, right? And then I'd say, "And didn't your dad work at the Palmer House?" Bigger smile, right? So over time, she might forget that I said that to her, but she knew she liked me, right? And
Hmm.
that's what you're just trying to make them happy. You're trying to make their lives better. And
Right.
if you know little bits of their story, it's huge. And
Yeah.
they tend
Yeah.
to go and participate in other fun activities and go
Yeah.
along with you.
So I want you to talk about activities. So,
Okay.
so Brenda, when she first started with Amber Grove, she was the activities director, as I mentioned, and not only that, she got her bus driver's license. So,
Right.
and
That's a whole
like,
thing, getting
yeah,
a
once a
commercial
month.
driver's license. Yeah.
Yeah, she would come and she would tell me some crazy story about what happened on the bus. Because sometimes
Right.
she found herself as all by herself on the bus as the activity director. So can you share a funny story about being a bus driver
Oh my
with?
gosh. Well, there's a rather famous story about me being on the bus.
Okay, let's do that one.
Oh my gosh. I never escaped this story. So, I love to take them out places along the river, where you can kind of get the
Mm.
bus close and you can see the Sacramento River. And so sometimes, in my efforts to find new places to go, I'm looking at maps of Butte County and I get off on this road, and I've got a full bus of residents. And I'm trying to get to where I can see on the map the road goes by the river. And I realize, oh, wait, I'm getting into this orchard and this is private property and I need to turn around, right? Well, we get the bus stuck in the mud. So,
What?
yeah. So, and I'm not having a good day. The residents are having a blast.
Oh
They're
yeah.
just as excited as can be.
Yes.
But they send out a tow truck, and it's this little janky tow truck with bald tires. It's not pulling us about anything. So our former executive director gets her husband's backhoe and hauls it over from Palermo and pulls us out of the mud. And there was mud everywhere. There was one resident that would get off the bus and he was going to get it unstuck, and he had like this much mud on his shoes, right?
Yeah.
They had a blast, but then you think, well, memory loss, they're not going to remember what happened. Oh, they did. It's
Oh,
funny
yeah.
how that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
One lady would go to get on the bus and she'd go, "Are you the one that got the bus stuck in the mud?" And I'd
Yes.
go, "Oh, that's me. Are you sure you want to get on this bus?" And she'd go, "Yeah." And she'd get on the bus.
So,
That
like,
that is
I,
so funny.
oh my
Isn't that
gosh.
funny?
So,
Yeah.
I was looking through the Amber Grove website, and I was looking at some of the activities. Like, I'm talking to Brenda the other day, and they like have a disco ball, and
Right.
they are having some fun, and it
Mm.
just makes me think, thank God
Yeah.
for people like Brenda. Like, I want to go there. Actually, I want to go there with Brenda, but
Right.
yeah,
I'll be
when
your
we're
roommate.
when we're
Let's go
90 and we're
off-roading on the bus
we're
with the
gonna
seniors.
sneak we're gonna sneak out. But I wanted to share this. This came from your website, but so many times Marcy and I are about connection. Like, we feel like if any time on this planet we learned about connection, it was during COVID, and that we
Right.
didn't have it. But that is a huge piece of what you guys do. And
Mm.
I had it here, but I had the yeah, so here's some of it. So you talk about enjoying a great social life. Now this is on the website for people
Right.
looking to
Right.
home their parents, right? Enjoy a great social life, rediscover passions. So things they may
Mm.
have forgot about. Maybe it's art, maybe it's
Right.
music. Brenda plays the piano and sings with them. Trying new things, right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
having fun.
Right.
Right? Like, who thinks about that, right? Everyone's just like, oh, are they gonna get their meds, and are they gonna just
Right.
fall asleep in their
Right.
chair, and are they gonna have a nap every day? Right? Like, no. People need to have some dignity for their lives,
Right.
and
Right.
the creativity, I think, is a big part of that, which reminds them of who they are and where they came
Right.
from,
Right.
right?
Right.
This is a
And the
whole
funnest
person.
The funnest thing, so we have all these nursing students in here that get their clinical hours, right, for
Oh.
RN. So sometimes the Chico State group, there'll be 20 of them. Well, there's your dance party because
Sure.
everybody's got a partner. They like disco music. It's hilarious. Earth, Wind, and Fire and Stevie Wonder
Oh yeah.
and there's some little residents that are just, cutting up a rug, and I love it so much.
Yeah.
because that is rediscovering something that's a passion. How many of
Yeah.
us go out dancing anymore, right? I
Right.
haven't
Yeah.
gone out disco dancing except for when I'm here, and
Mm,
it's a blast.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so everybody's got a partner. You can dance with someone in a wheelchair. You kind of just get around and roll them
that's
around
right.
and big
Music,
smiles on everybody's face. Yeah.
universal language. Hey, we just wanted to take a quick moment to tell you about something very exciting that Debbie and I and our team have been working on for literally years. And that is our Core Tools app, which is now available at the Google Play Store and at the Apple Store. And you can sign up for it now, and you will get access to all the tools we've been talking about on the podcast.
And if you're an early adopter of Core Tools, you can get a VIP price for $49 for a lifetime. That's
Lifetime.
right.
Buy it once, and we'll keep
Lifetime.
updating it too.
Yes, yes. So we're super excited about this. Go to Apple Store, go to Google Play, and purchase it now.
Core Tools, COUR, capital TOOLS.
Go get it.
It's making me think of the experience, and we're talking about. So I'm 59. So my talking about my in-laws, my husband's parents are in their 80s, and they have just recently moved to an independent living facility, which they did
Right.
on their own. They said, they were in their own home, they were taking care of everything. They said, we want to do this. We don't want you to have to move us later. We want to do this, which was a lovely gift that they gave to us.
Yes.
And it was
Wise.
lovely for them because they went out. None of us knew. None of the kids knew. They went out and they shopped places. They drove around. They checked them out. And they found the one they liked, and they were like, "This is what we're going to do." And then they moved in and sold their house. But what's been amazing for me to watch and this is just they've been there. It's not a year yet, but what's been amazing for me and my husband both to watch when we talk to them again, they're in Phoenix, is how rich their lives have become, how this
Right.
community that they did not have when they lived alone in a single family home, even though they were in a senior community, they weren't doing that much. They were home and they were caring for their home. Now, every day they go down to the dining hall and they have breakfast with friends, and they can go have coffee, and there's groups that they're joining. And we talked to them, and we hear about what the latest like theme was. So during the Olympics, they were doing Olympic events, but it was like who could, eat the Oreos the fastest, take them apart and scrape the whatever. But they were having so much fun. And they're like, and my
Love it.
father-in-law was like, yes, I won 3 gold medals today. And they're making events, and it's their life is so much richer. And I love
Right.
that. I love that a good activities director, a good community can bring that and make it so lovely.
Yeah, there's a couple things I'd like to say about that.
Yeah.
First of all, people tend to wait too long if
Yeah.
they need a higher level of care, whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Mhm.
Um, you know, everybody wants to dig in and stay home. And in their minds, in that generation, what they're thinking about is the skilled nursing of 1940s. White
Yes.
walls, a clinical setting.
Hmm.
Assisted living is a different animal now, and
Yes.
that engagement piece is what it's all about. And
Mhm.
what I tell families when they're thinking about moving in here, I do tell them we have a surprising amount of fun, but that is why I do it, because we're trying to make their lives better, and we
Yes.
can make their lives better, right? And
Yeah.
sometimes when people are at home, they fall into this pattern, we call it triangular living. You're going from the bathroom to the kitchen to the bedroom to the bathroom to the kitchen
Mm,
to the bedroom, right?
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not, and you're watching TV, whereas in a setting where there's other people, even in memory care, you're on the same page with them, right? You're in memory care, we call it being in their world, right? There's no expectation. People aren't asking you questions and expecting you to remember the answers. We're
Right.
saying to them, thank you so much for coming down to the music, or isn't this
Yes.
baby goat cute? Right? You were not saying, well, because it's counterintuitive if you're a child of a parent with memory loss to not want to
Yes.
say, Mom, don't you remember? Or
Right.
Dad, don't you remember?
You don't
Well,
want to
that's
upset them either,
right.
right?
And that's stressful because they don't remember,
Right.
right? So
And
when they're
and
here in their world, it's a different expectation. They can kind
you've
of,
you've created a safe space for them to show up
right,
as themselves and
right,
celebrate that and not say what's wrong with you, but look, this is what's right with you. Let's be together. Let's
right,
tell me your stories. Let's have some fun. There doesn't have to be this expectation that you meet some cognitive or whatever. Like it's none of that, nothing that goes with capitalism. We're talking about just enjoying your life and showing up. And
right.
that's lovely. And they're being seen and
Yes.
they're seeing each other. That's what we all need.
We're trying to give them joy in the moment, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, wherever they are in their journey, we're just meeting them there. Sometimes I don't quite know what they're saying, but I get the sense of it. You can
Yeah.
get the vibe and the tone of it, and oh, uh-huh, right. I gotcha. You can roll with it.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
saying to them, that doesn't make sense. You don't say
Right.
that. You
Right.
make them feel good.
That's beautiful. That's really
So I don't know
beautiful.
if if we have time to talk about senior housing in general, but I'm
Yeah.
happy to
Yeah.
share.
I think
We
it's
Okay,
a great
probably,
great.
idea because a lot of
yeah.
us don't really know, and we should know what these
It's
options
hard
Yes.
to
are
figure
again
out.
before it's time.
Right. It's hard to figure out. It took me a while when I first got into the industry. So independent living, like where your parents are, Marcy,
Mhm.
it's like a big apartment complex and the
Yeah.
state doesn't regulate it. They come and go, they've got their
Mhm.
cars, right?
Yeah.
Complete autonomy. But almost always in an independent living community, you find an administrator with an assisted living license. And you think, well, why would they need that in independent living? They don't need the knowledge of the laws and regulations of assisted living. And the reason is someone in the independent living community needs to say, your mom needs a higher level of care, or your
Yes.
Right.
dad's not able to dress himself
Yes.
anymore or
Yeah.
take his medication. And, somebody needs to say,
It's a
it's time
Mhm.
safety
for
net.
assisted. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then when you get to assisted living, it's highly regulated by the state.
Mhm.
And there's really no difference between assisted living and memory care. The only difference is a locked door
Mhm.
because
Oh,
people with memory loss would leave the building and could get
right.
hurt. Right. So you
Right.
keep them safe. But
Yeah.
it's really all assisted living. You're taking care of their activities of daily living and
Yeah.
you feeding them 3 meals a day and
Mhm.
helping them if they need help. And then skilled nursing. So the difference between skilled nursing and assisted living is skilled nursing is a medical model, assisted living is a social model. So
Hmm.
in assisted living, there are certain prohibited conditions you can't have because you don't have a nurse around the clock, right?
Hmm.
So if you have someone with sliding scale diabetes and they need to check that blood sugar around the clock and adjust a medication, you can't
Hmm.
do that if you don't have a nurse around the clock. So someone with a staged wound, right? It needs wound care. Now, so if somebody said, I want to move into Amber Grove Place and they have a staged wound, we would have to say, no, we got to get that wound healed first. But
Hmm.
if they lived here and they developed a wound, then we would plug them into what they need. We'd get wound care to come in, or we'd take them to see the wound care
Ah.
doctor. Or
Oh,
so,
nice.
yeah. So once they're here and they're ours, we make sure they get whatever they need medically, but we're not a medical model. And so
Hmm.
that's where the lines are. And it's not always easy to figure that out.
I'm sure
Mm-mm.
not. I'm sure not. I think there's so much of this that I know scares me, and I've been told these horror stories about the finances.
Right.
I know that, Marcy runs the spiritual center up in Cameron Park, and I know there are people there that she personally has tried to help get into some sort of assisted living. They're living at home, but the finances and trying to figure out,
Hmm.
like,
Right.
is should they have any money? Should they not have any money? Is the state going to take
Right.
all the money? When do they take them? When do they not take them? I mean, that
Right.
part for me sounds incredibly crazy and difficult, especially
It
if
is.
they don't have some of their own children to help them manage that, which,
Someone to step in.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So in Butte County, the average assisted living, and so not covered by Medicare or Medi-Cal, and I can explain there's a couple of exceptions to that. So the average assisted living in Butte County is about $6,000 a month, right?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
that includes your rent and your care. And
Right.
care, there's usually levels of care. We're super transparent about that. This is, each level of care in our community is $650 a month for, so if they can bathe themselves, dress themselves, kind of, they just need help with their medication management, they're a level one, right? All the
Mm.
way to they're on hospice and we're taking them through the end of their life and they're
Mm.
needing a lot more care. So,
Mhm.
so typically, Medicare and Medi-Cal only pay for skilled nursing. So there are some program exceptions. There's a Medi-Cal waiver program, and it can be tedious to get that and get that. And then there's a program called Master Care, and the state was trying to transition people who are in skilled nursing. Let's say they have dementia, but they're still walking around and pretty healthy. They'd
Mhm.
rather have them in assisted living instead of paying the cost of skilled
Yeah.
nursing. They
Yeah.
Mhm.
transition to assisted living. And in Butte County, that program was open for a short period of time and then it's back on hold. There's a new Medi-Cal provider for Butte County that hasn't picked it up yet. But in the
Mm.
greater Sacramento area, that program called Master Care is available. So for people with no funds, and you can go to the Master Care website and look at, what their services are, but
Yeah.
Master Care can pay for assisted living for people without funds. And the way that works is if, let's say you get Social Security check. So they call that your share of costs. So your Social Security check goes towards the cost of the assisted living, and
Mhm.
then Master Care picks up the balance.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
Wow.
then
we know that.
sometimes
Go ahead.
I was just going to say veterans, people who have served during a time of conflict can get aid and attendance that can go towards their care or rent every month. I believe it's $1,450 a month.
I was
Marcy's
gonna
a
say
veteran.
that. I was gonna say I know that, we hear about the baby boomers who are now coming into this time, and that we know that's a lot of people, and that the system is already stressed. You've said you have a waiting list. This is
Right.
something that, boy, I feel like we need to be dealing with as a country. And I've said many times, we need to honor our elders. We need to care for them. People should not have to worry about, will they be on the street? Will they be living in a car? Will they,
Right.
how are they going to live in their senior years? And I really feel like this is something we have got to figure out as a nation. We've heard before we can judge a community or society on how it cares for the weakest or the most vulnerable. And certainly among the most vulnerable are our seniors, and they've spent their life doing whatever they've been doing, and they don't have to have been
Right.
a firefighter or a teacher to
Yeah.
be deserving of a nice end of their life, a nice golden years. So I
Right.
love what you're doing. I just feel like we need so many more of you, and then
Oh,
we
thank
have
you.
to, and this is not your part, but we have to figure out how do we make it just available, and people don't have to worry about whether they can afford it or not. Just make it easy that we know we're going to take care of our seniors in their later
Yes.
years.
Yeah.
Right. And it's expensive, it's expensive to care
Yeah.
for people,
Yeah.
You've got your staff and your PG&E bills and your goodness knows
Yes.
paying for eggs these days, right? So
Yes.
Right.
it's expensive to care for people. But you know what I always say, I notice for families when they're trying to make that decision, is it time for memory care?
Hmm.
They feel so guilty because if you're taking care of your mom or dad at home and they have memory loss, and maybe they're asking you the same question over and over, and you're losing your patience, you
Yeah.
become the grumpy, grouchy caregiver, and you feel terrible about that. right?
Yeah.
Then maybe you go out and you find the best assisted living memory care for them. And families still feel guilty about that, right? There's
Mhm.
no solution that makes you feel like, oh, this is taken care of, you know,
Right.
and you still got to be involved and you still got to, you
Right.
know, be in there checking in on them and
Of
being
course.
a connection for them. Yeah. And we have some pets here, but it only really works
Mm,
if the family's super involved. Like if the family's in there changing that cat box and checking on the
right.
cat and taking
Right.
him out for sunshine, you know, that works. But if the
Yeah.
family's not, it doesn't work and it's not fair to the pet,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Wow.
I want to just play off of what you said about the expenses. The people who are doing this work, you and all of your staff, and then of course into the nursing at the different levels, these are professionals that are doing something so important. They deserve to be paid a good wage for that. So
Right.
yes, it is expensive. And in the richest country in the world, we can afford to take care of
Yeah.
our seniors,
Right.
of again those who need the most. This is humanity. This is how we do humanity well. So grateful for the people who have that heart for that, caring for seniors, being with seniors, showing up for our elders to honor them and give them dignity, and
Give
they
them a
deserve to
sense
be
of
compensated.
purpose, even if they're
Yeah.
just coming to, you know, sit with their friends and listen to music. We thank them for coming. Wow, we're so glad you're here and thank you for coming. And, you know, any little thing they do that we can point out, wow, this is great. As we're
Hmm.
looking for those opportunities for them. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
otherwise, like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the Eden alternative, but Dr. Eden was analyzing what's happening for the elderly in the world. And he said they're not dying of health related issues, they're
Yeah.
dying of loneliness and boredom, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can keep them busy, you're really
Yeah.
improving their lives. That's the
Yeah.
main thing,
Yeah.
We're all about purpose here, and that's why we do the Warrior Parent podcast.
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my goodness, Brenda, I think we're running out of time, but it's been
Okay.
Some great information. I really
really
appreciate what you shared. It's good to
Well, you
know.
guys are getting
so
it all
much.
out there. Way to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Oh, and I do want to read this. I did find the mission statement. So, optimizing the potential for cognitively impaired individuals to find comfort, joy, and connection in the world around them. I just think
Comfort, joy, and connection.
that's
Yeah,
just
we
that's
like to
just beautiful.
say protect, engage, and love. And we do. We love them.
Yeah.
And we love the families, you know.
Yeah.
When they leave, we lose the families too. It, you know, we get
Yeah.
close. We're going through the journey together with these people,
Yes,
and
you
we get
are.
pretty close.
Yeah.
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 Lovely.
Yeah. Thank you, Sunshine.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
doing that great
girlfriend.
work.
Nice to meet you, Marcy.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for the good work you're doing.
Hey, Warrior Moms. As we started this podcast, we had determined that part of what we were going to do is to create a community. So we have decided to take it to another level, and we have started our own Facebook community in addition to the Warrior Parent podcast, and it's called
From Chaos to Calm, a sanctuary for moms. Here's what it looks like. It's on Facebook right now. Please go and join it. And just to let you know, we're going to create our Blue Sky accounts right now. We're getting prepared as we watch this weird stuff go on in America. So we may be shifting the whole group to Blue Sky. Just be aware that we got you. We're going to start here. If this turns out to be not a safe place anymore on Facebook, then we will shift over. But what we're creating is a safe space where moms can show up and get information, get support, talk to each other about the things you're going through with your kids, the things you went through with your kids, maybe get some advice from moms, but also other experts. We're going to invite all of our guests and experts to join the group. I hope you will too. This is a place where you can show up and be seen and be heard and be safe. Mom's got you.
Nobody Trusts anyone more than moms. So let's do this.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters.
Today's affirmation is, I deserve rest. Say it aloud with me. I deserve rest. One more time. I deserve rest. Let that be your mantra for today.
Thanks for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast, which is a production of our nonprofit, Cour Experience, who also creates and distributes Cour tools. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. We want to thank Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, the producers, or the financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. Thanks for listening. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.